So let's say you want to add a background image to your page header. I'm going to show you a few different kinds of background images, or a few different ways to apply background images to your header. The first kind, let's say you have a small image that you want to repeat all the way across your header like a pattern, like a tile. Here, I've made an image that's 100 pixels wide, 100 pixels tall, and just contains one dot, a circle. So if I repeat this, I could get a polka dot pattern across my header. This is just to show you how you can get an image to repeat. Not that I want a polka dot pattern, but anyway. In Dreamweaver, I'm going to click on my header. Now I'm in design view, so I can click inside my header, and then either down here or on the right here, I just need to click on the tab that says header, make sure it gets highlighted, come up to sources. I just need to make sure I am on my style.css so that the CSS properties I add for my header will go into my style.css file. And then I come down to selectors. I already have a selector for header, but if I didn't have one, at this point I would click the plus sign to add a selector. Now since I already have this selector, I'm just going to click it. And then go up to background properties. Right now I have a background color. If I want my background image to show up, the first thing I need to do is take this out. Dreamweaver allows you to just disable a CSS property. So if I just disable it, notice my gray background goes away. The other option is to delete the CSS property altogether. Since I'm going to add a background image, I can go ahead and delete the property, but I'll leave it disabled for now. Now I go down to background image, click on where it says enter the file path, and then click the browse button that shows up. This brings up a file browser. I'm going to choose my PNG image, and notice I have my dots repeating throughout my header. By default, when you assign a background image, it will be repeated both horizontally and vertically. So if you want a tiled background, this is a quick way to do it. Of course, this doesn't work for my design, but I'm just using this as an example to show you if you wanted to repeat a background, what would you do? Another kind of background image is where you don't want to repeat it, you just want one background image going across the header. Now I have here a brush stroke that I made. I want this brush stroke to appear at the top of my header, but I don't want it to repeat, at least not vertically. So let's see how to do this. I'm going to go back to my header properties, and under background, I'm going to browse again and choose the blue brush stroke. So by default, again, the brush stroke repeats both horizontally. As you can see, the brush stroke ends and then begins again with a slight gap in between, and vertically. But if I don't want to repeat this vertically, how do I do that? In the CSS background properties, you also have a background repeat option, and you can set it to repeat, which is the default. You can set it to repeat X, which only repeats it horizontally, that is on the X position. As you know, in Photoshop and all these other graphic tools, X is your horizontal position and Y is your vertical position. So if you say repeat X, the background will repeat horizontally. If you say repeat Y, it'll only repeat vertically. And if you say no repeat, it won't repeat at all. So let me show you some of these options. We definitely don't want this brushstroke to repeat vertically. So what if we just said repeat X? Now notice it repeats horizontally but not vertically. And if I don't want it to repeat at all, I can say no repeat, and then the background will only show up once. It won't repeat horizontally or vertically. So this is another way to set your background if you want a long extended background that, only sits at the top of your header and doesn't repeat. Yet another way of creating a background image is to have a complete image that fills up your header or whichever section of your page you're trying to create a background for. For this kind of background, I'm going to choose one of my photographs to demonstrate to you how you can fill your header with a background and what you can do with it. So in my background properties, I'm going to go browse again, and in my images folder I've saved this photo. Now notice the photo is larger than my header. So that's what happens when I resize my window. Now there are different things that I can do with the positioning of this background. So I click on the header, go to my background properties. So just like background repeat, there are other properties which I can use to adjust my background. First is my position. I can use positioning to move my background around. Since my background is larger than my window at this point, I have some room to play around with my positioning. I'm going to take it back to 0. Then you also have background size. Now here I have this option called cover, which makes the background always fit the browser window as you resize it. So let's try this. I'm going to save all and preview. So now my background is covering my header, and as I resize my window, it automatically stretches to fit. So I'm going to remove this property. I'll save all and preview. Now what happens is my background does not cover my entire browser window, but it stops when the image ends. And if I set my background to contain, then the entire background image is contained inside my header dimensions. And clearly this is not what I want. I want my image to stretch out and fill up my header. So I may have to go back to this option when the background was set to cover, but then adjust my background so that I see the edge of the leaf. So I switch this back to cover, and then in my background position I'll have to change my position so that I see this edge which is at the bottom of my image. So I need my background size to be cover since I want my background to cover my entire browser window. But since I want to see the bottom of the image, I'm going to set the background position so that the vertical position is 100%. Now it looks like this here, but when I preview it, it shows up the way that I want it. So even as I resize my browser window, I will always see the bottom edge of my leaf, and this is what I want.